Hello and welcome to our Mental Health Mondays. And we are excited to be here with our community partner. And today we will be having a topic on social media and mental health. And Lay is back with us presenting today. And without further ado, take it away.
Thank you. So, to get started, I wanted to define first what social media is, to get a better understanding. I'm sure most of us know what social media is already, but it's defined as an internet-based network that allow users to interact with each other and to share information, ideas, and even personal messages via writing or verbally or visually, which can be both by like pictures and videos. Social media is also considered to be the fastest growing and rapidly changing industry. And obviously, everything has a positive and a negative impact. And this one specifically, I'll be going over both the positive and the negative impact on someone's overall mental health. And just an important note, since social media is not going away anytime soon, it's important to consider that we know, or it's important to take into consideration that we're able to set appropriate boundaries with how we're using social media, and also know ways to mitigate the damaging effects it can have. So I just wanted to briefly share kind of like what I found in terms of what social media platform is widely used and most popular. And based on this, you can see that Facebook is the number one most used social platform. And this is from April 2024. Then we have YouTube, Instagram, and then WhatsApp and TikTok, which is very surprising. Um, Also, one thing to consider with this is the age range of people who are using different platforms. So, for example, here it's categorized between Gen Z, what type of social networks they highly use. Never heard of ByteDance. And then we have millennials, and Gen X, and like what different type of social media they mostly use, and also even like instant messenger, so ways that they can text or communicate with other people. Um, and then this one is another graph of um, specifically on where individuals or Americans regularly get their news on Facebook. One thing that I did want to mention in terms of the statistics of social media users, what I found was that nearly half of adolescents visit social networking sites on a daily basis, and they spend an average of 1 hour per day dedicated solely to social media use. And as I mentioned earlier, social media is used to connect with others, also receive new content and share information, as well as entertain themselves. And younger people tend to use social media for pleasure, identity formation, also to maintain interpersonal connections, and maybe for social enhancement. So, elevating their offline social status through their online interactions. These are some reasons for why people between ages of 16 to 64 use social media. The primary reason being keeping in touch with friends and family. The second main reason is to fill spare time, so when someone's bored. And then the third one is reading news stories. Then the rest is kind of like finding content, just seeing what's trending or what's being talked about, maybe finding inspiration for things to do or buy, finding products to purchase, watching live streams, sharing and discussing opinions with others, or making new contacts or friendships, watching or following sports, seeing content from favorite brands, or work-related networking or research, or sometimes like just finding people that you connect with. This could be like specific interest groups. Like I know there's like a Trader Joe's for moms Facebook group, or like communities. And sometimes you use social media to follow celebrities or specific influencers. Um, in terms of social media, approximately 1/3 of the world population, or translating to 2 billion people, use social media to connect with others across geographic, cultural, and economic boundaries. And social media platform users are impacted by demographics of age, sex, education, and marital status. Um, and then now let's talk about mental health and how and why social media is important to talk about, specifically how it can influence our mental health. So, mental health of adolescents and young adults in the United States began to worsen, and this was a research in 2019. They found that nearly 2 in 3 adolescents were often or sometimes exposed to hate-based content on social media. They also found out that adolescents who use social media more than 3 hours per day are twice at risk, 2 times at risk of experiencing poor mental health outcomes. And in a survey that they did, they found that 8th and 10th grade students spend 3.5 hours per day on average on social media. Um, and in a separate study that I found, the total number of individuals between the ages of 18 and 23 years old reported experiencing a major depressive episode in the past year. And this increased by 83% between 2008 and 2018. So the past year, the study was done in 2019 or published in 2019. And so they're talking about how much it increased significantly in terms of individuals experiencing major depression just based on using social media. Um, Over the same time period, so between 2008 and 2018, they also found that suicide became more prevalent and now are the second leading cause of death for individuals 15 to 24 years old. Um, and so it's important to keep this in mind in terms of how we're using social media, the purpose and the intent of our social media usage. And if we know people or if we have kids, right, being mindful or paying close attention to what type of content they're getting exposed to. So let's talk about the positive impacts of social media first. So one of the biggest things that social media can help with is education. So accessibility to various helpful learning materials. So learning about various things, like with YouTube specifically, they have different types of channels that focus on providing academic content. So from what I've known for a long time, like Khan Academy, Crash Course, they are specific channels that kind of give you like some of them are like 30 minutes quick information sharing. So that can be helpful. Also, exchanging resources through comments, or if you're involved in group pages, that's also a way for you to kind of connect or find what's available to you. So these could be done through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or maybe sometimes Instagram. Um, and then also another positive impact is that you can collaborate with professionals to provide information on a given topic. So this could be like through Instagram Live or YouTube, just like kind of like what we're doing right now, right? Like live streaming or creating content to provide education or information to the community. Um, One thing though that is kind of we need to pay attention to is the con for um, education being accessible, right? Or information being readily available can increase self-diagnosing behaviors and or loosely kind of like use certain terms related to mental health or psychology, which we know like pop psychology. So sometimes um, certain concepts could be kind of just thrown around without really understanding um, what it is. So, for example, I know gaslighting or like narcissistic. Those two terms have been, like thrown around a lot that to other people it can be very invalidating or because of how people are using it and not using it in the context that it's supposed to be. Another one that is a positive impact of social media is social well-being or facilitating social interaction. So, social media platforms offer near continuous opportunities to connect and interact with others, regardless of, the time of day or where you are. So, you can connect with someone overseas, um, even with like a time difference, you can still communicate with them. Um, this on-demand ease of communication may be especially important for facilitating social interaction among individuals with mental health disorders that are experiencing difficulties interacting in face-to-face settings. So being able to connect with others anonymously may be an important feature of social media, especially for individuals living with highly stigmatizing health conditions. And also, even though this could be kind of like a positive, right, of being able to remain anonymous, there is also a downside to it, right? It all depends on how the individual uses social media. So, again, going back into the intent and purpose of engaging in these different types of platforms. Um, so social media in this purpose of facilitating social interaction is really beneficial when it comes to connecting with relatives for immigrant families without fees. So most of our social media platforms are free to download, free to use, like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, WhatsApp, Discord. So it really, even though you're separated from family, you could still connect with them and catch up with them, call, FaceTime, right, and share pictures, videos. And we saw this really being helpful during COVID when everyone was not allowed to go anywhere. And now let's talk about the negative impacts of social media. So, some adverse effects of social media use, specifically among children and adolescents, research has shown that it can lead to depression and anxiety, specifically like isolating behaviors. Social media use can also influence sleep patterns or sleep cycles. So, um, an individual could be getting inadequate sleep, and this can also disrupt their development, which can also be linked to depression and suicidal behaviors. Another adverse effect of social media use among children and adolescents is having low self-esteem. So this primarily comes from comparing themselves with other peers, which can be linked to an increase in body image dissatisfaction. So this leads to the next bullet point, which is developing disordered eating behaviors because of that expectation of I have to look a particular way because my peers look this way. Another adverse effect of social media use is online harassment. Again, going back into kind of like identifying what is my purpose, and what is my intent in engaging in these different types of platforms. Also, social media addiction, which hasn't really been explored a lot, but this is where the FOMO experience comes in, where like children and adolescents have that fear of missing out. And in one of the research that I've found, fear of missing out can actually trigger anxiety, and compulsive behaviors like checking and refreshing social media pages or websites to maintain that social connection. So checking notifications constantly, feeling like if they don't, then they will miss out on real life relationships and meaningful activities. Um, some fears of what social media users are missing based on research is the opportunity to meet up with friends, friends having more rewarding experiences, being left out of inside jokes, being out of the loop during vacations or summer camp, or maybe fear that others will lose interest, missing important posts or messages because there's too many messages or disappearing messages. So this would be specifically more on individuals in group chats. Also not knowing what others are doing and feeling like you're losing influence, popularity, or status. Another thing that is important to highlight is that the risks or the effects that I just went through, so depression, anxiety, isolation, low self-esteem, online harassment, these risks are greater for girls and also individuals in the LGBTQ community. So now I'm going to talk about some tips on how we can use social media in a healthy way. So taking breaks and knowing when to step away is a healthy boundary that you can implement, especially if you're noticing that there's a lot of unpleasant or hate-based content that's popping up on your feed, right? That would be a best way to kind of maybe unfollow those groups that constantly post unpleasant things or hate-based content. Um, this can, like, taking a break can help you kind of reset, um, and just kind of like not constantly feed your mind negative things or maybe even toxic information. Also, another way to maintain a healthy social media use is limiting your posts. So, if you think about it, if you're constantly posting on social media, maybe like every minute, so this could be specifically on Twitter, right? When Twitter just, came out, a lot of people were, tweeting every second, every minute, right? So, by limiting your posts, you can um, increase your behavior of being mindful, being in the present, enjoying your surroundings, enjoying your environment, enjoying the people that you're with. Whereas if you're constantly posting, right, you're missing out on what is happening in the present because you're on the screen. This could also be um, with, like, for example, with Instagram, right? Like constantly posting pictures or videos, right? That could be taking you away from enjoying the moment. Um, Another way to use social media wisely or in a healthy manner is by tracking your activity. So this can help you get an insight on how much do I spend time on social media. And I think nowadays smartphones can break down how much time you spend on each app. And so that can help you kind of um, if you have difficulty with time management, right? Like being able to look at where do you spend most of your time on and maybe setting limits for yourself. Um, so tracking your activity would be helpful. Um, this can lead into, potentially disabling notifications. So if it's really difficult with the time limit setting, maybe putting your phone on like focus mode or putting your phone on do not disturb so that you don't see any notifications, your phone doesn't light up every time it receives anything, which can help you focus at work or even when you're studying. So I kind of talked about the next one, which is setting time limits, which could also help in terms of time management and also help with focusing and concentrating at work or studying. And then another tip to use social media in a healthy way is think of social media as a way to link, to connect rather than compare. So this also comes in with, being mindful of anyone can have access to social media. And so linking or connecting with someone carefully because there can be a lot of scammers, catfishing, and online predators. Um, Also, another tip is to support a healthy online community. So, if you're feeling isolated or feeling anxious when having in-person interactions, maybe it would be a good idea to engage or subscribe to pages or communities that can support a healthy overall well-being. So whether it's, like pages that could be giving you positive affirmations, right? Or even kind of like validating experiences that can be helpful too. And then lastly, the most important thing is being able to use social media intentionally. So again, just reiterating and highlighting what is the purpose, what is your goal, what is your intent in engaging in these social media platforms. And then now let's talk about social media etiquette. So these are a few things that I found online in terms of what you should do and what you should avoid doing. So the do's are saying thank you, being true to yourself, sharing smartly, so sharing useful things, or things that you think might be beneficial, respecting other spaces. So even though this is virtual, there's still boundaries, right? Just like how we have our personal bubble or our personal physical boundaries is the same thing virtually, right? Respecting other people's spaces, um, being an active, I forgot the term, but not being a bystander. So reporting posts that you find or that are hurtful or harmful, so hate-based content. And also remembering that the person on the other side of the screen is real, which can also help in terms of, like making sure you treat others well and also think before posting. And then the don'ts are don't be rude, don't share too much. So this again goes into boundaries. So maintaining privacy. Like I said, there are anyone can use social media, and so it's really important that, for example, on Facebook or Instagram, the people that you are sharing content with or sharing your personal life with are people that you actually know, and not just kind of like adding or connecting with random people, which they could also take your information and kind of like use that against you. And also another don't in terms of social media etiquette is sharing other people's secrets and don't bully. So that's all that I have for today's presentation.
Excellent, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining in. And this was, of course, again, very informative as it's very important to think about how people engage in social media use and how it affects others. So we look forward to our next Mental Health Monday.